Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday. I was going to say Friday. It almost feels like a Friday. Happy 4th of July, 10:29 a.m. California time here on July 4th. Latest activity here on the globe does show, let's see where that 3.1 is hiding out here across the Indonesia Islands area. Did see some larger movement out here off the coast of Canada. Vancouver Island range has seen a 5.7 earthquake this morning. Just a short time ago, actually, in the area that's been seeing a decent amount of earthquakes forming here over the last 24 hours. This is the largest earthquake here in the sequence of earthquakes, totaling up to about 10 earthquakes so far in the last 24 hours. Of course, this activity did kick off earlier yesterday afternoon. A handful of earthquakes, specifically in this area of the Cascadia Basin. Now, as a whole, a lot of people call this plate, this microplate here, the Juan de Fuca plate, and that is responsible for its process involved in subduction underneath the North American plate here to the east. This is the plate boundary itself, where the Juan de Fuca plate subducts underneath this region. Of course, you got the Cascadia megathrust area. We wouldn't have that subduction zone there without the tectonic forces that are taking place out here. But this specific earthquake activity is occurring. It looks like a region of a fracture zone that sits out here. And I believe that is a divergent zone because you can see these ridges out here indicating new seafloor, oceanic crust here being formed throughout time. It is at a level where I believe it's also the Explorer plate and the Juan de Fuca plate boundary. Now, if you look at this and call it, the Juan de Fuca plate, there's nothing wrong with that because a lot of people do that. But there's actually individually 3 separate plates here in this mass of land, oceanic crust. You got the Gorda plate right here. Let me bring up this other map and show you guys. Okay, here's just a very simple drawing. Same setup. Juan de Fuca plate as a whole. The Gorda, the Explorer plate is going to be this pink color up here, well, maybe a salmon color, whatever. This is the area right about here that's seeing that earthquake activity. So there is, there's the divergent zone here in the red, separation of the seafloor over time, not quickly. That's seeing the earthquake activity, but it's right about here in this region. That could be a sign here that we're going to see some further strain with the Juan de Fuca plate being more active here across the Cascadia subduction zone. The Explorer plate, this little microplate up here, is definitely an interesting one. It does see some earthquake activity out here. Nothing has been recorded above 6.5 in this area of the Explorer plate. It just doesn't get any bigger than that. I did pull up the historical, well, yeah, maybe there was a 6.8 out here. Let me see where they were talking about 6.5. See, however, the activity consists of low magnitude events. No earthquake above 6.5 has been recorded in the region. Well, that may be wrong there because we do have a 6.8 back in 2018, roughly north of this area and on the Explorer plate. So that does look like there's a little bit of misleading info on that Wikipedia article. 6.7 in there as well. But the boundaries here are not set up, for super big earthquakes, but it does look like we've seen some over time. 6.7. And the area of interest right now, of course, is going to be where this activity is taking place. Let me show you guys the 5.7, which is right here, a little bit further south of the big earthquakes, along the fracture zone out here in the oceanic crust. The most recent earthquake of size, roughly around that same area, was a 6-pointer last year. Now, if you look specifically on this fault boundary here, there was a 5.9, 1939, 6.0, 2000. And this is where we're seeing that earthquake activity today, that swarm of movement in that same area, these ridges. So is there a possibility we could see maybe something a little bit bigger? Yeah, potentially. Look at this earthquake over here as well. This one came in a few minutes prior to that 5.7 earthquake. And you'd kind of have to draw an imaginary line right here across the USGS map, right about here, in order to see the boundary. But there's a lot of talk that this plate boundary here is actually fused. The Explorer plate is fused with the North American plate over here, that it's unable to subduct any further because of issues going on down way in the mantle. Let me see where I seen that at. Okay, so the subducted portion of the plate extends downward to more than 300 kilometers depth and laterally as far as mainland Canada. The relative buoyancy of the subducting plate and the underlying mantle may be inhibiting the Explorer plate's ability to descend further into the mantle. So that's kind of why we haven't really seen a whole lot of tremor activity up there. That would make sense here. Let's go back here to the tremor map, and I want to bring back the last month of data. Well, I'd like to go back a little bit further, so hold on a second here. We'll just go back since 2024, the beginning of this year, and see what we got. So obviously you can see where the major subduction zone is, and the area that they're saying is not able to subduct anymore is about halfway up the Vancouver Island range. So roughly about here northward. This is still the subduction zone where the Explorer plate is supposedly subducting before it turns into a North American and Pacific plate boundary further up north, right here. So there's still this whole area that is considered a subduction zone because of the Explorer plate and this plate boundary right here. This is still the Cascadia megathrust area, but you notice we haven't seen any tremor past that point. So that could explain why they feel, and it could be a reason why we're seeing earthquake activity out here recently, is because the specific plate boundary here between the Explorer and the Juan de Fuca plate to the south is showing all that earthquake activity. This plate, so basically that means that we're going to see further uptick across the area down south of this region, while this area still stays neutral. Again, with it not being able to subduct any further, we shouldn't see any tremor counts. And the relative buoyancy of the subducting plate and the underlying mantle may be inhibiting the Explorer plate's ability to descend further into the mantle. Okay. A lot of debate, right? Obviously, the Explorer plate has stopped and may eventually accrete fusing with the North American plate as the subduction zone has fully stopped and will eventually become a plate boundary between the North American plate and the Pacific plate rather than continuing its subduction. Interesting. So that would explain, we're not seeing any tremor across here, even though it is a subduction zone. Looks like that process may be playing out right now. The Explorer plate consists of two parts, with half being fused to the North American plate and the other half remaining a microplate system. Interesting, nonetheless. Either way, we got earthquake activity out there today and yesterday. So as always, we could be watching here across the areas to the east for some further uptick in movement. That's actually quite a bit of earthquake activity here in this zone. Should amplify conditions out here. We may already be seeing some of that take place here with the 4.5 that stirred up just moments prior to the 5.7. Could be a sign here that we may be looking at something larger out here across the area of the subduction zone of the Cascadia. This area can see some larger quakes, aside from big earthquakes, like the megathrust up in the 6 range, there around the Vancouver Island range. It looks like 6.5 was the most recent one, specifically in this area where I think maybe we may see some uptick take place. Back in 2014, 6.5. So overall, with this activity, we'll definitely watch this region here of the Cascadia. We should see things amplify out here today. I'm kind of curious to see what the tremor map was from yesterday. I didn't get a chance to do an update yesterday, unfortunately. I got caught up doing a bunch of stuff. Here is yesterday's tremor. mainly down across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. But we'll see what happens tonight when the activity comes in terms of the tremor data. We'll see if anything's on the uptick here across this area. But we'll definitely watch it, folks. The Cascadia subduction zone in general has seen a lot of tremor activity out here. Now we got some further movement here across the plate boundary itself, right? Well, the plate that's responsible for the subduction zone. So when stuff is going on out here like this, what we're seeing here today and yesterday, got to keep an eye on that, right? To ignore this would be very foolish. So obviously we'll keep an eye on that. As far as let me go over here to the Earthquakes Canada map. And see what we have. These guys normally report some of the activity that may not be reported from the USGS. Let's see, there's our activity here today and yesterday. There was some activity in this region, it looks like, over the last couple weeks. There's a month time frame in the yellow. So this area off the coast of Vancouver Island ranges has been seeing a little bit of earthquake activity out here. And of course, as you come up into the transform boundary, which is not the subduction zone, this is a Pacific plate and the North American plate boundary. You can see a little bit of earthquake activity up there, but yeah, this area is definitely more active than normal. So keep an eye, regions here, Vancouver Island range southward here, potentially for some further uptick in earthquake activity. It's been a little while since we've seen any 6s out there in that region, and we definitely could be seeing one. A 5.7 is a decent sized earthquake, but it's the sequence that is a little interesting out here. Let me see, this one has been reviewed if I remember right. Let me double check that. It has been reviewed. It just seems like an odd earthquake to see activity way out here, but this just might be a sign of overall regional stress, and that could be a bad sign for the Cascadia. 4.5 this morning. That has been reviewed as well, so that location will stick with that earthquake, and we'll continue to watch that for sure. That puts, it does put a lot of strain out here along the Cascadia, seeing some further movement out here in these zones. Nothing going on through the Pacific Northwest right now. Northern California pretty quiet. Down across the southern portion of the state to see what we got for 2.5 and above. One earthquake above the microquake level at a 2.9 down around the Grapevine. It's outside of Bakersfield there early this morning. Not a big earthquake at all, just a little 2.9. Aside from that, most of this activity is going to be from yesterday for that 3.3 and some smaller microquake activity out here. Not seeing any major swarming going on. In terms of any unusual activity. San Andreas Fault sleeps for now. I think we did have another earthquake down there in the Gulf of California. Maybe we didn't. Just got that one from yesterday. But overall, when one area of the plate moves, you obviously have to keep an eye on other areas. Most of the time, the activity that takes place in the Baja California area, not the Middle American Trench subduction zone, but further up north, can play a major effect on what goes on here across the eastern areas of the Pacific plate, and it does look like that has taken place, at least far up north here. But we'll continue to watch California. That's in between all this activity. And there was some threes kicking up here like we seen yesterday, so there was slight uptick, no major movement, but we did see a little uptick in the 3 range. And then we got today's activity and yesterday's events further up north. Alaska area, couple 4s up there as well, some newer movement. Let's see what we got up here across the subduction zone. 4.4, one of the latest quakes there in that area, about 1 o'clock this morning. Over here across the Japan area, looks like a lot of this here is from yesterday. One earthquake there down in the Philippines just after midnight. Let me see what we got here. 2.9 Java Trench area. Slight clustering going on here, Philippines southward into the typical crunch zone. But aside from that, looks like a lot of the activity Oh, in general, there's a lot of activity spread out all across the Pacific Ring of Fire right now. New Zealand area, still seeing some threes. No major adjustment down there for now. Did see a 5-pointer just off the North Island coast, southern end of the Kermadec Trench yesterday. A newer 5.1 surface quake going on here across the Tonga area. That kind of makes sense because we have been seeing a lot of deeper activity here recently with very minimal surface adjustment going on. So you can't have a bunch of deep activity and not have some type of surface adjustment. And that's what we got. All three of these are surface adjustment quakes here. At 10 kilometers, defaulted depth there for the quakes in the 5 range. And of course, what goes on across the Pacific Plate affects Hawaii. So let's see what we got here. Latest quake at 2.3 in the mix there around Kilauea Volcano. Let's see here, nothing big overnight. It's a 3-pointer. Let's see what we got for the latest information here from the USGS. And I'm still a little curious as to what's going on with this adjustment here that they made a couple days ago. We'll see it here now. There's the adjustment. It's supposed to look a little bit more thick, more drawn out. This is the past week. A couple days ago, they pulled something, and it looks a little odd now. Everything's leveled off, so we can't really see the adjustments in inflation as much as what we had previously seen here. I mean, it's possible they adjusted the sensitivity settings here, but this looks a little odd here now. It doesn't look right. I don't like it when things are tampered with. So telling me that we've just leveled off and there's really been no inflation or deflation going on, it just seems a little strange, doesn't it? During a major inflation event. Past month here, up and down is the process, but according to this newer adjustment, we've just leveled off. I find that rather odd. There's got to be a reason behind it. Far as earthquake activity goes, let's see what we got here across the area. Getting a handful of earthquakes here across the southwest rift zone again. Most of it has been down here across the upper east rift zone. Earthquake activity past 12 hours does show a handful of these quakes. There are very small ones out there as well. I'm really not seeing anything of major uptick for now. But past 6 hours. So this is going to be local time here, 7:15. That S wave right here, this drawn out line, looks like that's from the 5.7 there on the Explorer plate off the Vancouver Island ranges area. So, I mean, there's really nothing new out here. The update was put out yesterday. Deformation data, like I said, is a little hard to decipher when it's being messed with like that or adjusted. I guess we'll see, right? If there's some obvious elevated earthquake activity, that means there's some type of magma movement going on there below the surface. And if we don't see these adjust accordingly to the magma movement, then we know that this has been obviously set to show something that it's really not doing. But I can't say that yet, but it does look awfully odd as we were going up in terms of inflation, and then they just leveled it off here, and we haven't really seen any activity divert away from this trend that had been going on. Just a little odd, if you ask me. I'm not in control of it. I'm not a USGS technical guy at all, so whoever is doing it, I'm sure has a reason. Earthquake activity, like I said, we'll watch this today. It's getting close, I think. I think we just need a little bit more movement out there over the hot spot, and then we'll see some further uptick. Yellowstone National Park, nothing going on up there for now. Let's go check it out, see what's up there from the isthisthingOn.org is the site for the layout, which is pretty cool. I've been using this for many years. Look at the 5.7 showed up pretty nicely over here on the Yellowstone chart. In fact, that earthquake showed up across many stations out here across Yellowstone. Yes, Yellowstone, obviously, a couple thousand miles away from the Vancouver Island range, and then even more so offshore with this earthquake. But it does show how sensitive this equipment is. Even over here, Parker Peak picked it up. How sensitive this equipment is to ground movement and vibrations out there. So, no earthquake activity. It looks like maybe there was one last night, a very small spike of an earthquake here. That's a localized quake. But it doesn't look like they reported it. All right, out and about throughout the rest of the states here, Oklahoma, Texas, still seeing some movement out here in the oil fields. Out across the Blue Ridge Mountains region, a 1.8 from yesterday. Nothing new to report out here. See what else we got here on the earthquake 3D globe. Mediterranean area looks 2s and 3s look to be the magic number out there. No major uptick for now. Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet. Let's go check out Iceland activity real quick. Been a couple days since I've checked the Iceland graphs. But far as the land rise, inflation is faster than before the May 29th eruption. So that means we must be going up and up and up. Here's the chart. Most recent inflation chart right here. These are previous runs up to the eruption. Here's our current chart. I thought we were going to level out here and just maybe see a break in the eruption for a while, but nope. Looks like we're headed right back up. Let me go check out these graphs here real quick and see what we got for the Svartsengi area of Iceland. And the vertical displacement is right here. There's that dip in the inflation following the eruption there back in end of May, early June. Yeah, we're definitely going up, but there's a little bit of inconsistency here. There's a little bit of down, a little bit of up, a little bit down. So we'll have to see how this thing goes. We're not up at the level previously seen, right? Prior to this most recent eruption. We've got a little ways to go before that. All right, real quick glance here at space weather activity. Looks like we're coming up a little bit, crackling with some sea flares. Let's see where that's coming from. Maybe an active region out here on the eastern limb. Let's take a look at this magnetic structure and see what we got. Hard to say if it's going to be that region out in the eastern limb. Can't really see it in terms of magnetic complexity. It might just be due to the fact that we're starting to get a little bit of growth here within this area in terms of complexity, with that sea flare activity kicking up right now. Nothing big, but it's crackling a little bit with some sea flare. Notice the trend going up a little bit, even a low-grade M flare. Overall threat, 99% chance for C flare, M flare at 35, X flare around 5% chance. No major roars in the forecast, so it looks pretty quiet for now. Let's go check out the National Hurricane Center. I've seen some video out there floating around of Hurricane Beryl going through Jamaica yesterday. Pretty big deal. The latest updated information on Beryl here shows that we are at 115 mile per hour winds, sustained winds. It is expected to remain a tropical, well, they have a tropical storm here, but we're above that level right now until we hit the Mexico area. So it's weakening right now, expected to remain hurricane status Once it hits Mexico, drop down to a tropical storm. And then there's a little uncertainty on if we're going to see enough time here for it to stir back up into hurricane status in the Gulf of Mexico here prior to hitting land. Here's a cone of uncertainty. So there's still some weather models showing that we could see a more northward turn or a more southward turn. It just depends on the leading steering factors for this hurricane. Let's go check it out here real quick. Again, 110 miles per hour, movement at west-northwest at about 18 miles per hour. The spaghetti models here, it depends on which one you look at. This one here shows a more northward turn, even into maybe southeastern Texas. But when they all line up like this, here's the average point. Then it comes down to about Corpus Christi area and then heading up north. But by then it should weaken. Either way, could be some trouble in terms of storm surge, heavy rain and whatnot as this approaches the Texas area. Let's check out the numerical models, see what we got for that. Down here on the very bottom of the screen is that hurricane, and it does weaken quite a bit there over Mexico. It's got a little bit of time to redevelop, we'll see, before it hits the Texas area and then moves north and then just kind of dissipates. So that's the GFS model. All depends on which model you're looking at, I guess, but I guess we'll just see what it wants to do. Got high pressure right here. Depending on where this is at, this may just steer it further. That's probably why it's flattening it down south. Remember, we're clockwise here for the high pressure. That's probably steering it, keeping it suppressed down there to the south. All right, far as fires go, goodness, got that big fire over here in Oroville still going on. It is, let's give a quick update on this. It is at 7% containment, 3,568 acres burned. Still mandatory evacuations in place here in the red areas. Evacuation warnings, meaning get ready for an order. Get all your stuff ready, but they are still allowed to be at home. Here, you're not supposed to be at home. I'm sure some folks are, but that's the evacuation order zone in the red. Let me bring this. Not for sure what's going on here. Okay, that was weird. All right, so perimeter of the fire is marked in the red. Doesn't mean that everything specifically is burned in here, but that is the perimeter of it. I did see, unfortunately, some houses that were lost up here around this region. Here's the Oroville Dam. A lot of burnt, dry grass here on this. Looks like they're doing a good job of preventing any new spread here across the Kelly Ridge area. Satellite-based hotspots does show some activity right here. Further to the north, and also up here as well. So they're getting a handle on it. It doesn't look quite as active. We do have the heat building today again. Supposed to be around 113 degrees. Yesterday we hit 112. Today about the same, and then really cooked tomorrow. It's supposed to be up around 117 degrees here in Northern California. That's the air temperature. It's horrible. I've been inside the past couple days here. And fireworks are actually banned out here all across Butte County. Not even safe and sane fireworks are allowed. No fireworks whatsoever. There is a full ban on fireworks across the Butte County area of Northern California. That includes sparklers, even anything. Safe and sane fireworks are all banned. And that is due to the elevated fire potential out here, and the potential starts for new fire. It kind of makes sense, right? Do have a fire up here in the Redding area as well. Olinda fire, it looks like. 20% containment, holding at about 98 acres, so not as big. Right now, the main one's going to be that Thompson fire, where all the fire personnel are helping to prevent that spread. There's a Shelley fire up here deep in the wilderness. That's not good. That's the worst spot you can have because these just keep growing and growing and growing. And that's a little odd because we didn't have any lightning storms We haven't had any thunderstorms out here. There's a lot of dirt back roads out here. It's just weird how these fires start up out of the blue. No pavement, so it's not a chain dragging on the road. You know, excuse after excuse. But yeah, Shelley fire, 0% containment, 313 acres there. Again, out in the middle of Nowhereville on the side of a mountain. Further out and about here, see what we got. I'm sure there's going to be more fires starting up tonight. Hope not, but you know, it's possible with all the fireworks that are probably going to be going on. Anyway, yeah, we got quite a few fires out here across the west, as you can see. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Have yourself a good day. Happy 4th of July. No fireworks here on this end. So maybe we'll watch some fireworks on TV. Who knows? Keep an eye up here on the Cascadia subduction zone. Got another 4.5 coming in, it looks like, right now. 10:43, so just about 15 minutes ago. This earthquake positioned a little bit further up north here, north of where the plate boundary would be between the Explorer and the Juan de Fuca plate, which would be right about here. So yeah, there's a lot going on out here, folks. Ultimately, what goes on right next to a sleeping giant Cascadia subduction zone could ultimately have an effect, right? We'll watch for elevated tremor out here tonight, see if there is any. Watch for earthquake movement here across this area further to the east, as you know, this type of activity does add further strain out here, and if there's enough, we'll see some larger earthquake activity take place here today. But for now, that 4.5 just coming in brings up 12 earthquakes in this swarm of, well, 11 earthquakes in this swarm of earthquake activity. Look at that. Now they just adjusted it. See that? Magically adjusted it. That was a little weird seeing that way up there. But either way, that 4.3, they reviewed it, revised it, put it back over here against the divergent zones here where the splitting of the plate activity is taking place. Watch this area, like I said, watch this area roughly down around here, inland. Could draw something on the map here. I would be probably looking at right about here in this area. Watch for some further movement there. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Have yourself a good day. Stay safe out there, and if you have the freedom to do some fireworks, enjoy. Unfortunately, none here in at least in Butte County. I think Glenn County is going to do it. I think the Orland fireworks show got canceled, but Willows probably has some fireworks show, I believe, there at the park. Either way, we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Stay safe and be cool. Stay cool if you're out here in California like me.